Mr. Mayor, we're ready to go.
Thank you, CEO, and welcome to Snowy Valley's Ordinary Policy and Strategy meeting of the 29th of October 2020. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay respects to elders past and present. This meeting is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council debates and decisions. Members of the public participating in the meeting agreed to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valleys Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of a meeting, and any part of the meeting that is held in a closed session will not be streamed. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of emergency, please evacuate your area using the nearest exit. Council is currently operating under the temporary provisions of Section 447A of the Local Government Act, which allows for online meetings, and the provisions of the Act take precedence over any conflicts with the adopted Snowy Valleys Council Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors, apologies and leave of absence. Do we have any apologies? No?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. So we have a leave of absence from Councillor Benjamin and Councillor
Bruce Wright.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much, OAM. Someone moves that those be accepted. Councillor Cross, Councillor Ham, all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Declarations of pecuniary interest, councillors, any declarations there? No, thank you. So governance and finance report 6.1, draft payment of expenses and provision of facilities for mayor and councillors policy for public exhibition. Do I have a mover? Councillor Larder. Councillor Isselman, second. Councillor Larder.
I don't think that anything needs to be said. I think it's self-explanatory.
Thank you, Councillor Larder. Nothing further. I'll put the motion. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Takes us on to 7.1, New South Wales Bushfire Community and Resilience Funds, BCRRF Stream 2, potential progress for projects for application for funding.
Mr. Mayor, just item 6.2, skipped over that one.
I flicked over, sorry.
Page
Endorsement
10
of communications.
Yes,
Mover.
that's the-
Councillor Ham, Councillor Isselman, my apologies for that. I was just a bit keen. There's 4 recommendations there. Councillor Ham.
I'm happy with those. Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Back to the future. 7.1. BCRRF. Mover. Councillor Cross, Councillor Smith. Councillor Cross. On mute, Councillor Cross.
Councillor Cross.
I really commend us for the to get these. They look like a really great opportunity. The first one, I believe we will get $250,000. Is there any indication of what that will be for, please?
I'll ask the CEO to direct that question.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll direct that to Mrs. Jones.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Cross, the stream 1 is a dedicated funding stream. Council is guaranteed of that money, and we will be directing those funds towards some unfunded projects in the delivery program, which is the development of strategic place plans, and the timing works given the impact across the LGA of the disasters, and a couple of other projects. So there is also a compulsory 25% allocation to a micro grant program for community, which we are currently scoping up. for projects that fit the criteria around this funding program. And the other one is putting the funding towards some unfunded cleanup work on a piece of Crown land that sits at the top of Batlow that isn't we can't claim that under the current funding, so related to bushfire.
That's excellent. And what about Stream 2? I noticed that we're going to be using the Canberra JO as a vehicle for getting that funding. So
Yeah.
how will that process work?
Through negotiation partnership with the other bushfire impacted councils that are participating in this. So these are obviously projects that have been identified across all of the impacted councils as being of the greatest need. So it's about economies of scale. One thing worth mentioning, councillors, is that you have already resolved on a series of advocacy priorities earlier back in May, and that there will be potentially some eligible projects for this funding in that you don't need to resolve on again. We will be scoping those up for this funding as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard, question? Unmute, Jeff.
Yep, fine. Is there anything in this to set up an alarm system in the times of bushfires? In the last bushfire, and also when we had in the town, there was no, the committee who weren't listening to radio or having email and whatever, weren't being told what was going on. And I raised the question of whether we could put up an alarm system around the area by aircraft or by cars or whatever, but we need to have some alarm system to tell people to go and find out what the hell's going on before they get overwhelmed by the fires or the like.
Councillor Pritchard, this program is very specific around that it won't fund new assets. So that would be a no. Not for this one anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Shelley. Councillor Larder.
Just in response to what Jeff just said, I'm just wondering whether we could perhaps lobby the state and federal government to use the messaging systems through the 4G, 5G network to be able to isolate where those towers are, and perhaps you could send out a text on all those networks to say, well, there's bushfires or whatever your messaging wants to be.
Just through the chair, Councillor Larder, there is currently provisions on how to get those messages out, and each of the lead agencies for those events has the methodology around that, and they have those scoped up ahead to be able to get those messages out to everyone who has a phone within a particular area. So
Yeah, but the big problem is the people that don't have a phone or live in a shack or whatever.
I think everyone has their own personal responsibility to maintain a form of communications. It is a good idea. I'm just wondering how many people that would actually cover off on, and we can certainly look for what opportunities might be coming up for that type of infrastructure, but at the moment none of these actually cover off on that infrastructure.
Thank you.
Can I just,
Councillor
the
Pritchard.
2003 bushfires, the police evacuated the Gandra Valley, of course, and they were surprised how many people who were unregistered with anyone, coming out of the hills. Anyway, it's an issue that needs to be addressed at some stage.
I think so, and I think they had the same issue down the south coast. Councillor Ham.
I just wanted to agree with Councillor Pritchard that I think there's something needs to be done about people who build properties and don't register for this very reason, and then people get hurt, and that's not our intention. So if there can be an audit sometime about who lives where, that would be wonderful.
It's a brave new world, Councillor Ham. Okay, we've got the motion there. Move in a seconder, put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. (7.2) New South Wales Regional Road Transfer and Road Classification. 3 recommendations there. Councillor Ham, Councillor Cross, Councillor Ham.
After talking to the Director of Infrastructure and going through the benefit, pros and cons of this. I think this recommendation is absolutely correct and financially places us in the best position to control our own roads.
Thank you. Any
I
further
agree.
comments?
Sorry. I agree with Councillor Ham. I think it's managing our local roads when we know what they are, where they are, using local businesses to support that. I think it's a great initiative.
I think this is the example of a known, and the alternative is an unknown. Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Apologies to Don Rumsfeld. 7.3 Public Grids and Gates Policy Feedback. Councillor Ham, Councillor Smith.
Mr. Mayor, I think this is a case of, as personally as a councillor, that you get shown up when you haven't read a policy correctly, and to the people that were upset by this, that was not our intent. I don't think it was in the intent of the policy to be received as it was. And my appreciation to everyone who made, the whole 32 people who made submissions, and to the people who called me, and I know other councillors, about this. Yes, we listened, we heard, and we feel that that we have a much more reasonable policy now. But and probably I should have read the policy better in the beginning.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. And certainly they're not new policies. They're an amalgamation of two existing policies. And I think that's probably the message I was trying to get across to people, and also that they had an opportunity to put in a submission. That's why things go on public, they're in public submission. So that's a good result. So hopefully people will be satisfied with what we've achieved here, and doesn't discount the fact that we can in future make further changes. Any other councillors? Councillor Cross.
So if somebody wants to bring forward some further concerns they have, how would they go about that?
They write a letter to council.
What about being able to change the policy? How would that work?
I believe we can make small amendments to it, but any major change would have to come through council.
So that would be part of our review policy?
That's right. And of course, that's what councillors are for. Councillors are there to be a conduit between the community and the people, so the people can go to their local councillor, which they did in droves. Thank you. Anything further, councillors?
I would just like to recommend that people actually look at this document online when they have the opportunity, if they're interested in this particular topic, because there are quite a number of alterations that have been made as a result of the feedback that's been received from the community, and they're all highlighted in the document. Reasonably substantial changes in wording that reflect the intent of the policy rather than what might have been perceived as the effects that it might have had on some people. So have a look at it, and you'll see all the changes highlighted on the document itself.
Thank you. There are track changes there. Councillor Ham, closing debate.
Sorry. In closing, thank you very much for your submissions. We've listened, and I hope the outcome is what people wanted.
Thank you. Put the motion. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Um, 7.4 rescindment of policies, community and corporate.
Can we have a page reference, please, Mr. Mayor?
I think it's probably about page 87. Just
Page 88.
for anybody watching, the councillors have to go through all the pages of submissions, so it takes a while to work through that.
Thank
Councillor Cross,
I'm just moving the motion.
thank you so much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ham, thank you as well. Councillor Cross,
Very sensible. I've got nothing further to add to it. It just seems common sense.
okay, thank you. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Takes us to 7.5, enforcement policy for adoption. One of you enforcers like to move that way? Thank you, Councillor Larder. Seconder, Councillor Cross. Councillor, any comment? I'll put the motion. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Adoption of Children's Services Policy. Councillor Ham. Councillor Smith, thank you. Councillor Ham.
I've just got a couple of comments to make. First of all, thank you to everyone who's put a lot of work into this. If people take the time to look at the handbook, the policies and the procedures, you will see that they are multiple. So a lot of work's gone into this, so thank you. I do recommend that the handbook itself gets proofread a little bit clearer. There's just a few little mistakes, like saying that car coolers numbers are 55 when they're in fact 79. So just a few things to be picked up there. I would like the NESA, the New South Wales Educational Standards Authority standards, to be referenced within the programming, and really they should be referenced with anything to do with the curriculum. And I really liked how the way Cancaban Preschool has their acknowledgement of country up on their site, and I suggest that all the other children's services do the same. Puggles has a great philosophy up, and I presume that every service has a philosophy, and it's not just the two-lined philosophy in the handbook. And I think it would be good practice, because we are all these services are going to become exceeding services. That's our goal. That's what's in the operational plan. So if the acknowledgement of country and philosophy can be put in, that would be great. And I found it a bit cumbersome to actually find the handbook and policies. And so if those links could be linked, so if I looked up car cooler, I could just press on a link and up it would come. That would make it a lot easier as well. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Ham.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Is there any direct comment or instruction or reference to the COVID safe rules and regulations for child services in this document?
I'll direct that to Executive Director Halton.
No, Councillor Smith. These are broad and general. The policies have been out for comment for some time, but we do have COVID safe procedures in place at all of our childcare facilities, in line with state government directives.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Certainly, is there anything there on bushfires? Yes, there is, and we've got floods as well. So we've got most things covered. All right, I'll put the motion. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. That's unanimous. Takes us to adoption of community services policies. Before we move the recommendations, I'll ask Executive Director Halton. There's a few changes he'd like to make. If we could do that to the second recommendation, Mr. Halton. I've lost him.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Yes, so the recommendation I would put an adjusted recommendation as follows: that Council 1, receive the report on adoption of the community services policies. 2, adopt the suite of draft multi-service outlet policies. 3, adopt draft community transport and community transport protocols. and 4, adopt draft retirement living code of conduct. That is as opposed to the recommendation that sits in the report.
Well, there's a couple of extra ones there. So receive the report, adoption community services policies.
2, adopt the suite of draft multi-service outlet policies.
Community transport policy.
Adopt draft community transport policy and community transport protocols. And 4, adopt draft retirement living code of conduct.
Adopt the last one.
Draft community transport policy.
Got that, community transport policy, yeah. Draft community transport policy.
And then
protocols.
the protocols.
Yep, and the last one.
Adopt draft retirement living code of conduct. Code of conduct, yes.
Code of conduct. Okay, is that right?
Yep, that will do.
Thank you, Mr. Holton. So councillors, I need a mover and a seconder for those, and I can't see all of you.
Just take the sharing off.
There we go. That's better. Mover.
Just a quick question, Mr. Mayor. Before we move them, have we seen that retirement policy code of conduct?
These are coming back to council for adoption after being out for public exhibition. They were previously put to the council some time back. They've been out for longer than the regular timeframe for comment. We had 2 comments on the entire list of policies there. One which was a question relating to green waste, which has been referred to our waste services people, and one was in respect to using the term sexual preference as opposed to sexual orientation, and we chose to retain the wording as it was put in the original document.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you're moving that way, Councillor Cross? Move the seconder. Councillor Lada, anything further? All in favour? Councillor Ham? Gotcha. Unanimous, thank you. Councillors, 7.8 minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the Aboriginal Liaison Committee held to consider the draft SVC Reconciliation Action Plan 23rd of September 2020. Do I have a mover? Councillor Pritchard, you moving that? Thank you. Councillor Lada, seconding. Any discussion? No. Put the motion, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Councillors, that concludes the extraordinary policy and strategy meeting of the 29th of October. Thank you everybody for watching, and thank you councillors and